Hello, my name's Richard. I'm the pastor at the King's Church here in Addlestone in Surrey. Today I have a message, well actually it's a weather forecast to start with. Here's the weather forecast. There will be storms unexpectedly coming at some point in your life. Yes, that's right. Today we're looking at when unexpected storms hit in our lives. You know, those situations where maybe you're driving just on a road you've driven so many times before and you're just going about on a very routine journey, and really that ends up in a situation where the cars will write off and you're then riding in an ambulance. You know that kind of situation? Or, you know, you've been having a conversation with your friend and it's just been just a nice conversation, and all of a sudden it turns into an argument, which then turns into some kind of split, and you're not speaking to each other for months, if not years later. Or maybe you just have a routine trip to the doctor and that turns out to become a life-changing diagnosis. There are moments in our lives when the ordinary suddenly turns without any warning into an extreme and catastrophic situation, when life just turns upside down and things are unexpectedly very different. You could say the world is experiencing this right now with this crisis that we're going through. And an unexpected storm has swept across the whole world without any real warning. And we're all kind of going, what's going on? How are we going to cope? How do we cope? What do we do in these kind of situations when everything changes suddenly and we're just left kind of going, what on earth's going on? How do we deal with that? You know, everything that we thought we could do, everything we thought we were able to achieve, things that we thought were secure, have all vanished or fallen about around us. That's the kind of storm we're talking about, where the storm hits and we're left thinking, how am I going to get through this? Well, let me tell you a story from the scriptures. It starts like this. It starts very simply and just very kind of unassumingly. It says this: one day Jesus said to his disciples, let's go over to the other side of the lake. So they got in a boat and set out. There couldn't be a more ordinary beginning to a story than that, particularly for those people. A lot of Jesus' disciples were fishermen, so it would have been very natural for them to travel around in a boat, I'm guessing. So Jesus says, let's go over to the other side of the lake, and off they go. You know, a day trip. Maybe they took a picnic, or maybe they took 5 loaves and some fish. I don't know. My guess is that the disciples, who a lot of them, as I say, were fishermen, they would have thought, great, this is great, an easy ride for a bit. You know, we'll have some time to relax in the boat, we'll set sail across the river, and we love sailing, we love getting on the water, let's do it, let's go. The boat for them was something they could handle. It was something they could control. Jesus was a rabbi, and they were novices at following the rabbi. They had no idea really a lot of the time what was going on. They were just following Jesus and watching, observing, listening, taking it in, but they had no real experience of being followers of a rabbi. But a boat, yeah, that's something they could handle. That's something they were familiar with, something they were confident with. So let's go. Let's get in this boat. Particularly Lake Galilee, that's something they would have fished and sailed across numerous times. And so they knew where they were going, they could navigate, they knew exactly what they were doing. Let's go, let's do this. It's familiar, it's comfortable, we like it. So they set off, and Jesus falls asleep in the boat. So they're going along. Jesus is asleep. I'm guessing they're having a bit of a laugh. I don't know if they had some beers, but maybe some bread and some cheese. I don't know, but they were just having a laugh. The guys together, this is the life. Just imagine the scene, you know, a blue sky and just kind of like drifting along. It's great. It doesn't get any better than this. And then, just as it was plain sailing, a storm out of nowhere descends upon them. The waves start rising and getting really, really tall. The wind is ferocious and violent, and this boat starts taking in serious amounts of water. Now, these guys, they would have been through storms before. They would have known what to do in this situation, so they would have started to do all the things they needed to do to get this boat into safety. But they realised pretty quickly that this was a very bad situation. This was a very serious situation. And this was on a different level to anything they experienced before. And so all of that laughter and fun that they were having has suddenly turned into, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Let's get this water out. Let's try and keep this boat afloat. But they were fighting a losing battle. So I guess they're asking, what do we do? What are our options in the situation? I think they had some options. Here are my assessment of the situation, being the expert sailor that I am. They would have probably had the option of trying to stay calm, bail out the water and keep sailing. Maybe they would have had a second option of panicking, trying to bail out the water and keep sailing. And then maybe there was a third option, which was... Actually, I don't know whether there was a third option. I don't know much about sailing, but I'm guessing when you're in a boat in the middle of a large expanse of water, which is very, very choppy, there are limited options and things that you can do when you're in that situation. They are seasoned fishermen. I'm sure they were doing absolutely everything they could to keep the boat afloat and to keep going. Batten down the hatches, whatever you need to do. But still, the boat was sinking. Now, maybe at some point they also started to pray, because in extreme situations, if we're honest, that often leads us to prayer, doesn't it? Even if we've never prayed before or we don't normally pray, when things get tough, we think, oh, I better pray now. This would be a good time to pray. Maybe they did that. And if they did pray, maybe they started thinking, well, that hasn't worked, meaning the storm is still there and we're still sinking. And if you want to hear more about how unanswered prayer, or seemingly unanswered prayer, works, maybe you can listen to last week's message. But, you know, they're in this boat and it's still sinking. And at some point in all of this chaos, possibly as a last resort, they go to Jesus, the rabbi, who is fast asleep in the boat, oblivious to the peril. I don't know how he did that. But anyway, they go to him and they wake him. Why do they wake him? So he can worry with them? Maybe so he can do a bit of bailing out of the water, so that they could drown together and know that Jesus was with them when they drowned? Or maybe they were expecting Jesus to sail the boat. Why do they wake the rabbi? What skills does the rabbi bring to the table in a situation like this? It's amazing what people expect of spiritual leaders. They expect them to be experts in all kinds of things, to be an expert manager or to be an expert administrator. Or I found to have some knowledge of gardening, or maybe to be able to teach advanced biology, or be some kind of expert in global politics. Now, spiritual leaders might have some of those skills, but it's not a part of the job description to be a pastor, to have all those things, and neither is it of a rabbi like Jesus. Why did they wake Jesus? I don't know. But whatever the reason, in reality what they were doing in calling on Jesus was a form of prayer. If prayer is in some way the way we call on God and speak to him and ask him when we're in trouble, or ask him for help, then this is what these disciples were doing. They were calling on Jesus. They tried everything else, and if all else fails, let's ask Jesus. I'm sure, as I say, many of us have done this kind of thing. I've done all that I can. I've tried my hardest. I've tried this. I've tried that. I've tried absolutely everything. And then when all else fails, I'll ask Jesus. It's a kind of like break glass mentality. With a fire bell kind of thing, or those keys that you used to have behind fire alarms. Break the glass in emergency and bring out Jesus, and maybe he can fix it. Because I've tried everything else and now I need to really get serious. So anyway, Jesus wakes. And how do you imagine his mood when he wakes? Is he going to be angry? Why have you woken me? Or maybe he's surprised when he wakes up. It's like, why have you woken me? What do you expect me to do? Or maybe there's panic. This is kind of how I tend to wake up. It's like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Why are you waking me? Or maybe he just wakes up and says, oh, do you need something? How can I help? Now, a little word of warning. Don't superimpose how you would react to a situation on how Jesus reacts to a situation. And neither superimpose the chaos of the situation on how Jesus responds. Because here's what happened next. He gets up and he rebukes the storm. It's just as if like the storm was a pet dog of his, and he just kind of says, stop. And the dog stops, and in this case, the storm stops. Because it says everything was calm. And then he speaks to his disciples and he says, where is your faith? Now imagine Jesus saying those words to you in that situation. How do you hear those words? Is that a rebuke or is it a challenge? You see, if we assume that Jesus is slightly annoyed and he just about tolerates the disciples and he just about tolerates you, then you will hear that as a very angry rebuke. Like, where is your faith? I'm meaning, it's pretty non-existent, isn't it? You've got pretty small, rubbish, useless faith. In fact, you're a bit useless. That's kind of how you'll hear it. And yes, we do hear Jesus rebuking people in the scriptures, and we imagine maybe that's what he's doing here, because he's been woken up and he's a bit angry and he wants to get back to bed because he's a bit tired and a bit fed up with his useless disciples. Where is your faith, you losers? But if you hear these words that way, I would suggest you maybe just take a more careful look at Jesus, who is full of grace and truth. Yes, he does rebuke, but he is also the embodiment of patience and kindness and gentleness. Think about it for a second. What should the disciples have done? They did everything they could. What would their faith have done and made things different? What were their reference points for their faith? How should their faith have worked in that moment? Should their faith have stilled the storm? Is that what Jesus was expecting of them? So that he could maybe have a good night's sleep, or a good day's sleep in that case? The disciples at that point, they hadn't been commissioned to do anything. They were just simple followers of Jesus, no real experience or authority. So I don't think Jesus could be that angry with them for not having the faith to still a storm. And I don't know whether he'll be that angry with us if our faith doesn't still a storm, whatever that means. But instead, I think, where is your faith is more of a question. It's a question that Jesus asks in light of what they have just seen and experienced. A challenge. Where is your faith? Where is your trust now? Is it in your ability to be sailors? Your expert ability to be sailors and keep this boat safe? Is it your faith in the boat itself, which has served you well until now? Is your faith in the weather forecast and your ability to see how the weather's going to pan out? Is your faith in just fate and whatever will be or whatever will be? Or is your faith in me, says Jesus? Where is your faith and your trust now? Now the disciples, rather, are amazed. They're left asking the question, who is this guy? Who is this? That even the wind and the waves obey him. Where is your faith, says Jesus? When the storms hit in our lives, in this current crisis, where is your faith? Is your faith in what you know? But when that becomes ineffective and the things that you can do are no longer useful, when our skills as a sailor, as it were, become redundant or just don't work anymore, where is your faith? When your faith, if your faith was in the securities of the things around you, like maybe your house or your family or your relationships or the government or your job or your finances or your health, but when that, whatever the boat that you're sailing in, when that boat starts to sink, be it any one of those things off that list, the question is, where is your faith? Let me say one thing, and that is this, that Jesus is the one who will never let us down. When everything else is in chaos and out of control, and it's like a storm and the water's coming in, he alone is the one who can calm the storm. He is the one who can calm the storms in our lives. So trust in him. Stay with him. Listen to him. Call out to him. And he will rescue you in your peril. He is the unchanging rock that you can base your life on. He is where your faith can be sure. So where is your faith? Is it in things that will at some point crumble or fall away? Or is it in Jesus, who stands firm and is with us and does still our storms? Now, if you're going through a storm at the moment, I just encourage you to call out to Jesus and see what happens. He is faithful. In fact, call out to him and then let me know what happens. Send me a message. May you know the stillness of Jesus calming the storms in your life. And may he challenge you and ask you, where is your faith? Grace and peace to you. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. If you found this message helpful and encouraging, go ahead and click like and share it and comment on it. Do all that social media stuff. It just helps me know that you are listening, and also just gets the word out there so other people can hear God's word too. So God bless you. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for liking. See you next time.